It is so good to have Casey Demchak, almost celebrity name copywriter, joining us on Substack Live. Casey, thank you so much for being here.
It is my pleasure to be here, Mike. It should be a lot of fun.
It will be a lot of fun, especially since you got the memo about the right coloured shirt for today. I'm glad to see that. Now, Casey, there may be some people, I don't know who, but there may be some people who are not familiar with who you are and what you've done and what you're doing. And I could read a great big spiel about that here because I've got it all written down. But part of what you're about at the moment, which I love, is fearless dude mindset for people over 50, building a business and growing a business. And I'm a little bit fearful right now, Casey. I've got to tell you, can you see it in my face? Because I think we're going to run out of time, and I don't want that to happen. So we're going to dive straight in. Let's, viewers who are joining us, thank you, and watching on the replay, thank you. Take it from me, Casey is a superstar of copywriting and consulting in business-to-business marketing, and we're going to dive straight in with some questions. The value is here for you because the value is in brand messaging, keep watching, sales writing, and book marketing. So, Casey, let's start with this fearless dude mindset. How did you come up with that, and what's it about?
Well, I have ghostwritten. I've written the marketing copy for lots of books in addition to B2B stuff over the years, but probably about the last 15 years, primarily what I've been writing is marketing copy for authors, speakers, and coaches. I spent 3 years writing for Jeff Walker and his product launch formula team. And while I was writing for a lot of authors, I ghost wrote.
Excuse me, just a moment. Let's not just Jeff Walker. You were working with and writing for Jeff Walker?
Yeah, for 3 years.
I mean, this is not name dropping. This is authority, credibility, and everything else. Jeff Walker is one of the biggest names in internet marketing.
Yeah, he actually lives 4 hours away. I live in Colorado. He lives in Durango, Colorado. I'm over here in Fruita. But I wrote for his team. Yeah, wonderful experience, wonderful people. Great guy.
I apologize for interrupting, but I just wanted viewers to really appreciate when you say you've been writing for 3 years for Jeff Walker, and Jeff Walker's just a name. He is one of the big superstars of internet marketing of last 10 to 15 years. Am I right?
More than that, like 20, 25. Yeah.
There you go. All right, mate. Continue on. Sorry for the interruption.
I forgot where I was. No, I'm only kidding. No, so the fearless dude thing, I've ghostwritten 4 self-development books. I've written the marketing for probably about 20 self-development books. And I've always had an interest in self-development, Tony Robbins, all that kind of stuff. So I started working on some side projects in addition to the brand message platforms that I've written. Started writing a lot of content. I wanted to aim self-development at dudes over 50 because it's we're all kind of pivoting at this point in our life. Mm-hmm. And I had a comedy writing background from my 20s, and I thought, when I was doing a lot of working with authors on self-development books, I noticed that the stuff towards men, there wasn't a lot of it, and the stuff that there was either too intellectual, too dense, or it was just too macho kind of thing. I thought, I want to write material for regular everyday dudes, I grew up in a blue collar town. And I wanted to take my comedy writing background and make it humorous. So what I've been doing with my Substack newsletter is blending in information about writing brand messaging copy, but trying to blend in some fearless dude. I called it Fearless Dude Formula. And it was kind of a tribute to Jeff Walker, because he was product launch formula. And I was trying to think of a name. I had Fearless Dude, and I go, I'll try Fearless Dude Formula.
I love it.
So I like writing that material, and I've been trying to figure out a way to blend the two. And I've had a couple of people say, do one or the other. You can't do both. I've had some people say, I like how you blend the two. But it's something looking forward, as we all kind of do some different things as we get older. Just an area I really want to go into.
I have a bit of a background in comedy as well, Casey, and I have a favorite thought which matches into very well hand in glove with what you're talking about, mixing humor with self-development. And my thought that I have for myself is when they're laughing with you, they're buying from you. And this would be the perfect blend of humor built into self-development and that fearless mindset formula for dudes over 50.
Yeah, because, back in the old day in copywriting, we were told, don't try to be witty or funny or clever. Yeah. And I don't think that applies so much now. I think if you can supply people with good information and entertain them at the same time, what's commonly called infotainment, all the better. Because if you think about all the stuff coming into your inbox, if you can create material that when people see the email came from you and they get a smile, oh, this is always fun to read, that's to your benefit. And also, I just think if you like humor, you've got humor, people love to laugh. It's just so important these days to be authentic with all the AI content out there. So, if you got it, go for it. Life's getting shorter. We don't have as much runway ahead of us. So my thing, I want to have fun with my writing. Kind of like when I did when I was a kid. I started writing a lot when I was 8. I didn't get into copywriting until I was 30. Prior to that was all TV scripts, screenplays, and stuff like that. So between 8 and 30, I just wrote fun stuff. It wasn't until I was 30 that I started writing for other people. So now that I'm getting older, it's like I want to loop back to writing fun stuff again. I don't want to just write, the same old marketing copy over and over again.
You made an interesting point there, Casey, when you said things are changing and things like, for example, the old school copywriting don't use wit or humor, and that's changing. And what about how do you see that specifically today? You mentioned AI. I like to ask of this for all my guests who are experienced copywriters. Is copywriting as a freelance independent copywriter without AI, is that a dead craft?
I think the model that I launched my business with is a dead model, or it's dying. I started my copywriting career before the internet. That's kind of how long I've been doing it and how old I am.
Are you that old?
I'm that old. Yeah, there was no internet when I started. I started off at a healthcare company in Newport Beach, California. And the IT guy who worked there, and back then with email, we could email each other within the workplace, but you couldn't email outside the building. There was no PDF files, nothing. And then I went to work for a medical device company in Santa Barbara, California. And that's when the internet arose, and we had to figure out, what are we going to do? How are we going to write for this World Wide Web thing? And what are we going to put on it? What are we not going to put on it? I remember being in a meeting. I can remember this meeting like it was yesterday, where we're talking about, well, can we put video on it? And the IT guy started laughing, like, you'll never be able to put video on them. It was funny. So the model I started with around 2000, I think is kind of going extinct. But I was young, so I was really into adjusting to this new technology. So I think when you ask a veteran copywriter, they may or not be as eager to roll with how AI is going to change freelancing, simply because, if you've had a long career, you're kind of getting towards the end. But there might be 30-year-olds going, I know exactly what to do with this. And a new model will emerge, just like a new model emerged when the internet came out, and I was part of that, So, but the model, how I built my business when I started, I think you have to have something different. You're familiar with AWAI, kind of what they're calling copywriting 2.0. The model they're really talking about is when, as an independent copywriter, you just don't write copy and turn it in 2 weeks. You can create multiple variations of pages, sales pages within a few days. You can produce, use AI to produce layout, graphics, maybe a video script that has an AI audio attached to it. So they're kind of a model that may be emerging as the independent copywriter. I think the term they're calling is solo agency.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
It was actually, Casey, AWAI, American Writers and Artists, Inc., that I met you. I mean, this is the first time I've met you talking with you, but I bought your product key copy platform.
Key message copy platform.
Oh, sorry, mate. You know what? I've got it written down here, and I thought if I look to my notes, then it's going to be looking away from Casey and viewers, and it's going to be rude, and I knew I'd stuff it up.
No, but see, everybody did. That's why I changed the name from Key Message Copy Platform to Core Message Platform. 3 simple words. Because I did Key Message Copy Platform for years, and then AWAI and Steve Slonwhite approached me like, hey, why don't do this program for AWAI? And what I found is all of a sudden now a lot of people were talking about it. Nobody could say it. Yeah. And I was talking, do you know Gordon Graham, the white paper guy?
Who is it?
Gordon Graham.
No,
who was pretty big with AWAI. He was always known as, he's retired now, but he was the white paper guy. And he was another one of my copywriting friends. And I says, Gordon, nobody can say Key Message Copy Platform 2 times in a row, And he's Canadian, and he goes, you need a shorter name for that thing, eh? So,
yeah, you need a good copywriter. Okay, for our viewers who don't know what this key copy platform, key message platform is, I probably butchered it again, have I? But look, you're the man who wrote it. You're the man who taught it. I watched you on video during the course teaching it. It actually brought in many dollars for me as a copywriter, because I sold the concept to my clients, business to business clients predominantly, and so it put food on my table for my family, I've got to tell you, Casey. So thank you very much for that. Tell our viewers a little bit about it. What, in a nutshell, what's it about, and why should people take notice about it?
Core Message Platform is a document, let's say on average about 15 to 20 pages. It basically functions as your master messaging playbook. So picture a 15 to 20 page document that is loaded with key marketing messages about your product, service, or program or book. For programs and services and products, you're going to have a description of your voice. You're going to have a detailed description of your avatar. And then for outgoing messages, you're going to have unique selling proposition message. You may have 6 or 7 secondary messages. You also want to have transformation message, how your product or service provides transformation to your end user. And you're going to want to have, 3 or 4 messages that are intended to overcome product objections. Now, I've written dozens of these things, and no 2 are organized exactly the same. So depending on the client, I kind of vary the categories. But what it does, by having a core message platform, it assures, if you create that, it then serves as a springboard from which you can pull copy to create web pages, sale pages, e-blasts, video script copy. And by pulling from this core message platform, your messaging is going to be very consistent and persistent in voice and tone across all your marketing channels, which is really important because repetition of message builds the reputation of your brand. Also, when you have a core message platform, if you get kind of a rush marketing opportunity, you think, oh, I've got to put something together. If you draw from your core message platform, you'll be able to put something together much more quickly, and it's going to be in alignment with all of your other marketing materials. Because without one, when I would work with companies a lot, what I'd say to them is, hey, go to your conference table, spread out all your marketing materials from your last campaign. And a lot of people have the tendency to write their marketing on a make it up as you go basis. I go, look at the beginning of your campaign and the end of your campaign, and look at the middle. And I bet your messaging kind of morphed and wobbled around. And they would say to me, Casey, we don't even have to do that exercise. I can tell you right now, that's what happened with our messaging. So that's the big benefit of having a core message platform, is that you're going to have, if you draw from it to create all your marketing materials, your materials are going to be very strong and consistent, because people need to be hit by, they need to be hit by your messaging multiple times for it to stick. So for you, your messaging is like, okay, I wrote this, I've heard it a million times, but your audience hasn't. So that's the big benefit, and kind of the surprise benefit of it. Feedback I got from clients was, now that I have this document at my fingertips, I just feel so much more confident about going out into the world marketing my stuff, knowing that I can put out a lot of good material, and at the drop of a hat, I can create new material, and it's gonna be in alignment with all my other materials.
It almost turns into a template, doesn't it? And it can be used, can't it, Casey, for our viewers on Substack who are writers and pursuing the business of writing, and so they become their own client. Couldn't they have this own platform working for them?
Oh yeah, in fact, the last course that I taught for AWAI was teaching the core message platform system and some other accompanying documents. It was basically about being a brand messaging strategist. But that was the big assignment for everybody in the class, was to create a core message platform for your business.
Yeah.
So,
Now,
yeah.
Casey, something you mentioned again in passing, and I want to come back to it. You mentioned a background in screenwriting, and I happen to know the answer, but I'm going to ask you, who did you write for? Who were you involved in writing for? A name that, for anyone of our vintage who ever watched Happy Days on TV, it may connect the dots. Come on, spill the beans, Casey.
Yeah, I didn't write for them. I was a development person for Ron Howard and Anson Williams, who were Richie and Potsy on Happy Days. So I graduated college in the mid 80s, and Happy Days was huge in the 70s. Yeah. So they were partners. This was before Ron Howard had Imagine Entertainment. And so I would go to work every day and read scripts, and I worked with Anson Williams every day. And this is when Ron Howard was making Cocoon. So I got to see him sometimes, but worked with, Anson Williams every day. It was a super small office. There was like 4 or 5 of us. And so it was kind of cool working for Potsy, and very, very, very nice man. And I got to do a lot of cool things from that. Remember the show Cheers?
Yeah.
I got to go, the script supervisor on Cheers used to be the script supervisor on Happy Days. So I got to go to Paramount Studios, which was just a few miles away from where I worked. And every Thursday for a full season, I got to go to the final rehearsal for Cheers. So they would do their final rehearsal for the show, and then they would film it that night. So I got to sit behind the writers, and I had to be quiet. I was like 22, 23, and watch them, do their final run through, and got to meet all of them and stuff. So that was like a big treat.
You're a very handsome man, Casey. I'm surprised you weren't snapped up to be a movie star.
Well, yeah, no, that would have been cool, huh? But no, I was into the writing.
It's hard to be humble, isn't it? Now, Casey, you, in your background, you've also done some radio. You had a radio show before it was called a podcast. Am I right?
Yeah. Funny you found that. That was that was for, I forget the name of the company, but it was before podcast. They did, they offered you, I think it was like 16 episodes, and they had a little internet radio network kind of thing. What did I call this? It was Master something.
I've got it written down here somewhere. I can find it. I won't delay the viewers. By the way, we do thank our viewers who are joining us. Casey, I just want to acknowledge those who are joining us live and watching on the replay. We've had a few comments. Lonnie Ray wanted you to know that laughter is the lifter. Go for it, man. Also, wit and wisdom works. Jeffrey Veal said laughter is the best medicine. He uses funny memes to stand out on LinkedIn. Lonnie Ray again, you've seen the gap, men over 50, feeling it makes sense. Just a few comments from our viewers. We appreciate that. Sorry to cut in there on the, I've got the name of the radio show, but I won't pull it up now. But let's give our writer audience some value, Casey, because you're the man to speak to. Sales writing, and specifically the back cover of a book. Now, before you jump in, I want to just say I'm one of those book writers who think first of the book cover. I'm like Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer had a practice. He was into manifestation and imagining the outcomes, and he would actually create the book cover and have it sitting in front of him as a prototype and write to that. And I'm like that. I create a book cover first, then I write the content. And you know what? it's like an afterthought to think of the back cover, and yet you say, and I want you to expand on this, that the back cover is the sales page for your book.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
expand.
Well, yeah, I mean, and also coupled with that, your Amazon description, and the two are generally can be kind of similar. So, and what I always tell authors, because a lot of authors, and you, I think you put a post up on this topic today. They think of marketing as icky, you know, and so they really don't know what to do. And I would tell them, look, when you sit down to write like your back cover copy or any marketing copy for your book, you don't, they think I have to tell people what my book is about, and I would tell them, you don't want to tell people what your book is about. And they would get kind of confused, like, what are you talking about? And I would say the mindset you want to be in is you want to tell people how they're going to benefit from your book, what they're going to get out of your book. If you can clearly express what people are going to get out of your book, how they're going to benefit from your book, they'll know what your book is about. It'll be evident. So it's kind of a little tweak in mindset. So, the big thing for people who think marketing is icky, swinging back to that topic, you want to put out value. You just want to provide people with a lot of value. So your marketing could be all about describing the value you provide people, the transformation you provide people, and and just really put that out there instead of thinking of a sales pitch. I'll give you a really fast example, and I'm going to attribute this story to Steve Sloan-White. I think he's the one who told me this. If he didn't, I'm still going to give him the credit. I know I didn't think of it. But he told me this story about 3 plumbers. You move into a new neighborhood and you have a new house, and you're there the first week. There's a knock at your door, and it's a plumber saying, "Hey, I'm Jim from Jim's Plumbing, and here we got this special going. We do this, we do that. Me, I." They give the pitch, and you roll your eyes. They go away. A few days later, there's another knock on the door. Second plumber gives the same kind of spiel. Me, I. We're running a special, 20% off. Act now, that kind of thing. A few days later, there's a third knock at the door. It's a third plumber. You're like, oh no, another plumber. And the plumber says, hey, just want to introduce myself, welcome you to the neighborhood. And I want to give you a little tip sheet, 8 things you should know about how to pick out the perfect plumber for your home. A little different. Month goes by, those same first 2 plumbers come by, they get the same spiel, all that. Makes you roll your eyes. Third knock at the door, it's that third plumber. And this time he says, hey, just want to drop by again and say hi. And I'm going to give you another little tip sheet, 9 simple plumbing repairs you could probably do by yourself. A month later, you actually need a plumber. Who are you calling? Third one, every time. And what did the third one do? The third one did not make a sales pitch, right? He provided value, but he got the sale. So he sold you without making a sales pitch. So people who don't like marketing or think it's icky, be the third plumber. Provide people with a lot of value, okay? Because this is what happens. In sales writing, there's this thing called mental triggers. And we're always trying to blend, and there's a bunch of them, and we're always trying to blend in sales triggers. And a big one is called reciprocity. And that's when you provide people with a lot of value. And now, almost subconsciously, they want to pay you back. I mean, they almost feel obligated to buy. It's kind of like at the holidays when you get an unexpected gift from somebody you didn't think was going to buy you a gift, maybe somebody in the office. What's your first thought? I got to get them something. I got to do something for them, And actually, speaking back to Jeff Walker, he was a master at this because he did not like sales. He thought sales were icky, and he invented the sideways sales letter, which if you look at Jeff Walker's launch formula, you start with 3 pieces of pre-launch content. And when Jeff would do his big launch every year, he would put on 3 live training sessions, like 3 consecutive days. And they weren't like 20-minute training sessions. He'd go for like 2 hours, 3 hours, and just really put it out there. And then on the 4th day, he says, look, if you really want to go deep and learn this, I'm going to open up, the cart. You can buy my program. So he just was over the top value, and it worked out very well. So a lot of people at that point, I think we've all sat in webinars, 45-minute ones, let alone a couple hours, where the person put so much out there for us. We felt like, well, I got to buy it. The person is just bringing it, So bring a lot of value. Don't think of, I got to hold it back, or put it out there. Because the more you put out there, you build up more trust, you build up, people feel affection for you, and that reciprocity mental trigger kind of kicks in too.
Hey, Casey, you've touched on something there as well. And thanks for sharing that story, who you believe attributes to Steve Slormwaite. First of all, I know you'd know, but some of our viewers may not know of a similar story told by Dan Kennedy, my copywriting mentor, Al the Plumber. And if you ever want to hear Dan's story told about Al the Plumber, just search Dan Kennedy, Al the Plumber, and you'll hear a similar story. It's fantastic. Long form, short form, webinars, you mentioned 45 minutes. Today, we see marketers putting on 3-day, full days, consecutive day video events. Have you attended one of those?
No, I'm like, at the end of this week, I'm doing one that there are 3 days, 3 hours. But here's the thing about length too. We had a saying, this is another Jeff Walker saying, when we would write pages and stuff, and because it was kind of getting weird in that era of everything's going to be short, everything's going to be real short. And our saying was on the writing team was, we can't be too long, we can only be too boring. We've all watched 5-minute videos that felt like they were 10 minutes, 12 minutes long. We've watched 5-minute videos that felt like they were 2 minutes long. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times I think these days people get hung up on length. Mm-hmm. And I remember my very first copywriting assignment at that healthcare company in Newport Beach. It was 1993. And I was told, Casey, keep the copy short. Nobody reads anymore. Everybody's so busy. Everybody's just on the go. Nobody's going to read. Keep it short. Blah, blah, blah. And again, there was no internet yet. We would write stuff for people and we had to overnight it with FedEx, So even then, it was nobody reads anymore. Nobody reads anymore. So today when I hear nobody reads anymore, or it has to be super short, I think back to my very first copywriting assignment over 30 years ago. And the fact is, between my first assignment in 93 and today in 2026, long form copy has sold billions in products. And I took Evan Carmichael's Brandlytics course on YouTube, which is a great course to take. And all the data he had was, longer videos performed very well. So I think if you just think of, can't be too long, can only be too boring.
There's some interesting trends happening on YouTube, and I know this is Substack and it's not YouTube, but there are some interesting trends being written about at the moment. vidIQ, who's the analysts of YouTube, write about how longer form videos are making a comeback. I've dropped my notes, Casey. Making a comeback. It's interesting. I wrote a little bit of copy for GKIC, going back to Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazer. And the head of GKIC at the time had a call, and he wanted to know whether I was worth the chops whether I had the chops to write copy. And he asked me one interview question. He said, "What's better, long form or short form copy?" And I said, "Whatever length gets the job done." He said, "You're hired." That was good enough for him.
Yeah.
All right, Casey. Let me refer to my notes, buddy, because I'm conscious of your time and your frame. We're very grateful for our viewers who are viewing either on the live or on the replay. Just while I'm checking my notes, Casey, because there's a fool's cap full of them here and I didn't get to even a quarter of it yet. By the way, Lonnie Ray says 100%. We always start with the back cover too. So Lonnie Ray, someone you know, Lonnie's on the call. Lonnie is a follower of yours, perhaps, or a subscriber?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll both look it up because I want to see who Lonnie Ray is. Very active in the chat, and we appreciate that.
A great name, Lonnie Ray.
Yeah, Lonne, Ray, R-E-Y. We're going to check that out. Why are you? Why now? Business. Now yours. Okay, Substack. We're on Substack. So now, when did you come to Substack?
I came to Substack. I took the Brian Clark class with AWAI. So I came to Substack last year sometime.
Okay.
Later.
How many subscribers have you got at this stage?
I brought over my list, and I've got like 772. So that's a combination of subscribers I've picked up.
Yeah.
But I can't brag about like super rapid growth on Substack because
I'll never let the truth get in the way of the good story, Casey. Now, I would recommend to our viewers to check out Casey's Substack publication, Brand Message Victory, because it's for business builders, specifically aged 50 plus, looking for insights on how to develop and build a bold brand message that effectively engages readers and prosecutes Freudian slip, prospects. Now, Casey,
you almost said something else.
Almost. Thankfully, I caught. Why are we targeting 50 plus?
Well, I'm 50 plus, and I just know that me and a lot of people I know, you get into your 50s, a lot of people are being booted out of corporate America, or you've been doing something for many, many years and you want to make a change, and you have those internal questions. Am I too old? Do I have enough energy? Can I do it? So I want to inspire people who are a little older to start their own business and really go for it. And that requires marketing and messaging. And I think older people listen to me more more so than the 30-year-olds, maybe. I just started noticing the people who I interact with more are older, and I interact well with people in my age group. But I think we need to, motivate each other and inspire each other. I saw this interview with Sherry Lansing. Sherry Lansing was the first female executive of a movie studio. I think it was Columbia Pictures. She went on to Paramount Pictures, and she retired at the height of her power. She was 60 years old. She started a nonprofit. And during this interview, they said to her, what was it like starting a new business at age 60 after you had so much success in the movie business? And she said, age 60, they said, is 60 too old? And she goes, her response was, 60 years old you are not too old to start a new endeavor, but you are too old to procrastinate about it.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
And so I really love that quote. So, my thing is whatever I can do to help people of a certain age, my contemporaries, because part of another issue we deal with is our identity. We're so tied to what we've always done. It's a big part of our identity. We may want to make a pivot and do something else. It's like I started my own copywriting business when I was like 38, 39. I became a copywriter when I was 30. So I sometimes ask myself, gee, am I bound to that forever? Can I do something different because I made a decision when I was 30 or 38? Would I make the same decision now? And a lot of times, if you shed what you've always done, a lot of your personal identity is attached to that. So to do something new and different, you have to really, it's not just a business pivot. It's a lot of times it's a pivot of how you feel about yourself, and you're attached to what you've always done. So that kind of becomes, the fearless dude component. It's kind of like you got to go into the unknown. And what I always say is, you get going in the direction you want to go, and have a good attitude and the right attitude. And you don't need to see the entire pathway. You just, let the stepping stones reveal themselves as you go. But you have to get moving, and you can't get moving if you're hung up on the past and questioning, who am I without my former career. So that kind of means something to me, to help people get out of that, build velocity and get going.
Last few questions, Casey. What are we getting wrong when okay, let me just frame it. Writers who write in the business model, that is, those who are specifically on Substack to monetize their creativity. Okay, let's just repel those who don't have an interest in that, because there are plenty. And I do find, and let me just say, I'm happy to say it, I'm not asking you to agree with me, Casey, I'm happy to say that there's plenty of creatives on Substack who do deride sales and marketing and monetization as if it's icky, slimy, manipulative, and something that should be avoided. And that's okay. You go away and live in your own world. My world is the opposite, and I attract those who have an interest in that. So for those who are in that world of the business model of writing and monetizing their creative output, what is it that we're most getting wrong today then?
Well, I think a lot of people right now are holding back on their own voice. I read a lot of newsletters that are obviously AI generated. There's this there's this little pattern AI copy puts out where it's like, it writes something and then it has 3 short sentences stacked on top of each other. They all begin with the same first word, right? We're seeing that everywhere. And I think the biggest thing is just to be yourself and let it out there. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but be, the word authentic is kind of used a lot, overused these days, but be yourself. Your writing doesn't have to be perfect and polished. Let it have personality. Classic AWAI training, which you're familiar with, is what they used to call the bar stool test. When you read your copy out loud, does it sound like something you would say to a friend over at a coffee shop or a sports bar? Really be yourself and provide a lot of value. It's like the examples I was giving earlier about just, don't worry about, I have to tell people about my product and make a pitch. If I explain to people, here's the value you'll get out of my product, here's how it can transform your life, write solution pictures for them, like, if you have a particular challenge and you overcome that challenge, what's your life going to look like? Paint that picture with words for them. Give them a lot of value, and then you don't have to be salesy. Again, going back to the third plumber and that plumber story, who just provided the tip sheets and was just very friendly. Yeah. He made the sale without making a sales pitch, but he was making a sales pitch. So it's all about, be a go-giver. It's a Bob Berg expression. He had the Go-Giver book, but put out a lot of value and know me, like me, trust me. When you put out a lot of value, people know you, like you, trust you. And another big thing is, you only, to help people and make an impact in their lives, if you know a lot about a particular topic, you only need to be 4 or 5 feet. Imagine when you're climbing a mountain, if you're 5 feet ahead of the person behind you, you only have to be 5 feet ahead of somebody to reach back, lend a hand, and help them up the mountain. You don't have to be the guru on the top of the mountain speaking down to the followers at the base of the mountain. All you need to be is a few steps ahead of somebody to reach back and help them up. Right?
See, you are genuinely a humble guy, and I love the way you deliver the message and what's behind the message, Casey. And it's been such a thrill of mine to have you join us on this live. I've been looking forward to it. You're one of those copywriters with background that I'm a little bit starstruck, even being in your, almost a movie star. Why wouldn't I be starstruck? But Casey, what we want to do, time always flies when you're having fun, and we're almost at the end, and I'm conscious of your time and our viewers as well. And again, we thank the viewers who have stayed with us during the live, and for those who are watching the replay. And if you'll excuse me, I just need to look away from the camera and wipe the end of my nose. You see, that's how you know it's live streaming. Casey, do you have any offers, or would you like, apart from our viewers finding you on Substack and subscribing to your newsletter, Brand Message Victory. Do you have somewhere else that you'd like them to go to have a look at what you're doing?
Well, you can always go to CaseyDemchak.com.
I'll put that in the show notes so people, and I'll link it so people won't have any trouble finding it.
Yeah, and I think you could. I think it's still set up to where if you go to CaseyCopy.com, because when I was just getting started, I would tell people CaseyDemchak.com, and they'd go, huh? How do I? They couldn't spell it.
What is the origin of Demchak, by the way?
It's Slovakian. All my grandparents were born in Czechoslovakia.
Is that right?
Yeah. So it was Czechoslovakia at the time, and now it's two countries: it's the Czech Republic and Slovakia.
Both your parents are born in the old Czechoslovakia?
All my grandparents, all four of my grandparents were born in Czechoslovakia. My parents. Okay. So my mom was full-blooded Czech, and so was my dad, and they had me, so I'm full-blooded Czechoslovakia.
So you were brought up with a small tumble of wine for breakfast, am I right? This is what the Czechs used to do?
We didn't have wine. No, I'm a 60s little kid, so I grew up on Frosted Flakes and Captain Crunch.
And there you are in the United States, and I know you have an interest in baseball. Why would I know that without doing any research? Correct.
Well, you can't see my catcher's glove. I got a catcher's glove off to the side there and a pile of baseballs. Now, I grew up in California. I was a catcher. I played baseball every day when I was from little kid all the way through into junior college. And then my catching hand was swelling up all the time. And that's when I got into my writing full time. But I grew up being a baseball nut. I played on traveling all-star teams and had a blast as a teenager. And we played high school baseball, and then in the summer I was on these American Legion travel teams, and we would go to tournaments in Lake Tahoe and Las Vegas and not cause trouble, but we had a really good team. We won a lot of games, but we had a lot of fun too.
Are you any good at it?
Was that what?
Were you any good at baseball?
I was very good. I was a catcher. I was on high school all-star teams and had a blast. It was my first love, and it was really helpful because anything to do with business, or when I moved to LA and pursued the film thing, that the competitive juices and all of that.
Let's wind it up, Casey. Thank you for sharing your baseball history there. I'm the one who asked, and I appreciate that. I mean, some people have a vase of flowers, some have a bowl of sweets. You've got a bowl of baseballs behind you. I had to mention it.
Oh, it was from my 50th birthday party.
Oh,
and so people. The thing was, he brought we had baseballs and people would sign the baseballs. So there's like 8 or 10 messages crammed on each of those baseballs and with felt pens. And now they're all fading out. So the baseballs live, but the messages have.
Do they have felt tip pens back in when you turned 50? How old are you?
How old am I?
Yes.
64. I just turned 64 in March.
And what do you weigh?
What do I weigh?
Yeah.
I weigh 162 pounds.
You know why I asked that? It's a question David Letterman asks on My Next Guest Needs No Introduction. Have you watched his series of interviews?
I've watched some of that. Yeah.
No,
I used to watch David Letterman.
Of course.
Especially when I was in college. Yeah.
Is there anything to finish off with, and again, we thank our viewers who have stayed with us and those watching on the replay or listening to the audio on podcast for that matter. Casey, is there anything that you're expecting me to ask that I didn't ask that you would hope that I would ask before we finish off?
Well, no, I was expecting it came at the end, but I was expecting you to ask me how much I weigh. So we got to that, last minute, but I wrote it down right over here.
Oh, very good, mate. That is so good. I can see why you were a comedy writer. All right, seriously, Casey, thank you very much for giving us your time, sharing your wisdom and your opinions. And we love that. We love a point of view. We love people with opinions, and you've got them. You've got the expertise to back it up, and now you share insights to help those 50 plus. What do you do? Help 50 plus looking for insights on how to develop bold, brand messaging that effectively engages readers and prospects. Casey Demchak, thank you very much for joining us.
You are welcome, Mike. It's been a lot of fun.
Too right it has. And to our viewers, once again, thanks for joining us. Thanks for sticking with us. And until next time, Mike Searles signing off.